workshop and shade meeting of the School Board of Manatee County will now come to order. And unfortunately, for those of you that are comfortably seated, we are going to move into a shade meeting to deal with an issue with our risk manager. And so if you would go to the souvenir store or whatever, and thank you. We need to. Let's bring in some MTC stuff. And The shade meeting of the School Board of Manatee County is now adjourned, and the workshop for the School Board of Manatee County is now back in session. The chair has found good cause to amend the agenda to include all items listed under agenda amendments on the August 14, 2018 agenda, updated August 13, 2018, and posted to the district website. This afternoon's workshop is basically we've got a presentation on a piece of technology. Then the board will go through an overview of the tentative operating budget. And hopefully by around 4:15, we will be on the last item, which will be a discussion with the board, the superintendent, and we have a couple of guests that will be joining us to begin talking about strategy and set the foundation for process of strategic planning. But we're going to focus on two select communities where we have a considerable amount of activity in the district. So with that, Madam Vice Chair, do we have any public comments?
We do. Mr. Nelson and then Ms. Fowler.
As usual, I got a handout for you. Chairman Holt, Cynthia, and fellow board members. I'm back again to talk about finances. And it just seemed to be the perfect time to talk about it as you're looking at the budget. Several weeks ago, I gave you what report should I look at to know how much income you have. And you look at the start of the year, you got the budget, and then you got the end of the year where you have an audited CFAR. So I look at the two. I gave you 4 years of history, or 3 years of history. Looking at 2014-15 was $95 million difference between those two reports. 16, $109 million difference. And in 2017, 16, 17, there's $108 million. Now, looking at your sheet today is the budget you're looking at. And a lot of it stems back to what I've talked about before. It's counting money twice. Counting money twice. Those are the numbers that you find in your budget report today, looking at the health of the budget. And it's a lie. As far as I know of no other where you add the income twice, and it's very like it. There's $45 million you count twice. You can't do that. You can't do that. It distorts the entire picture for everybody. We should be able to look at financial reports where we're getting what's income and how we do at the end. It'll tell you how we're doing with budgeting, and it should be close. If you have an odd year, you might have reports that would be more. One of the things I met with the finance people on Thursday, I found out, the lady told me, that you never will have the AFR and the CFR match. Why do you bother with the AFR? If you get different ingredients going into it, use different terminology. What's extra income? That could be as much as $50 million difference between those reports. If you're going to be open, you ought to look at those three reports. It's very hard to understand how much income you have. What it looked like when you're looking at those numbers, that's a big lie. Because when you look at this years gone by now, you look at every month, hey, we spend this money, we counted it twice. But yet when you have an auditor go through the CFAR, And that's just looked at all income. There's that $100 million difference. Somewhere along the line, the report should tell you where we are at the beginning and where we end up with the CFIF that's audited. Thank you.
Mrs. Fowler?
Mr. Nelson, have you spoken to our CFO about this?
Yep.
Are we using gap numbers?
I did meet with them Thursday for half an hour.
Okay. So we use general accepted accounting principles.
We do, and I have some notes from our meeting. I can clarify that and share with the board what we discussed.
I'd really appreciate that because, you know, I love Mr. Nelson, but he said this a number of times, and I think people get confused by it, and I'd like a little clarity on it.
I'll be happy to do that for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, Mr. Nelson is on the Citizens Financial Advisory Committee.
Exactly.
And they,
That's another
part
reason I
of
want
their
to-
role is to look at how to present information so that the public understands it and has a grasp. So I'm hopeful that when they prepare their report on the millage utilization, that they can come up with a format and a structure so that it's readable and understandable. Gretchen, sorry.
Mayor Norma. We brought other people, and Commissioner Trace is here also. I want to pass these. She's got copies of it. But I also want to share Forest Creek. Commissioner Trace is also here. I offered to give my spot up to her because she didn't know she had to sign up to speak. So, but
I think the chair of the county commission could probably address the school board. And for those of you out there, Chair Trace and I have been working on a number of issues collaboratively, and we have met, I think, in the past year twice with the county commission. I think we've had joint meetings. So we do collaborate and meet. Chair Trace,
But I'm not here as Chair Trace. I'm here as
parish resident.
parish resident. I'll be honest with you. I moved to parish in 1972. I do not consider myself a parish resident. I am from Ellington. My family moved to Ellington in the 1880s. Y'all moved Ellington Elementary to Blackburn somewhere in the late 60s, I won't swear. We no longer have an Ellington community. And I think one of the reasons is we no longer have an Ellington Elementary. When I was a child, everyone went to Ellington Elementary. We had our Christmas specials there. We had our Halloween specials there. The kids played on the playground. We voted there. We did everything in the elementary school. And we got a great, new, wonderful concept school in Blackburn Elementary. And we no longer have a community there. And I still have a lot of family that lives in Ellington. So moved to and like I said, moved to parish in 1972. Not having a community school with the name of the community loses the identity of the community. I'm not even going to get in some of the things that have been going on over the weekend. They were ugly. But I'm asking y'all as a parish resident, we've been there, parish has been there since 1868. It's been a viable community since 1868. There's some mighty fine folks that live in parish. I can contest to that. I've lived there, like I said, since 1972. Whether I'm a good person, bad person, y'all can all decide that. But not having a school as part of the community, and I know it's going to be right there. It's right there in the heart of parish, and not being able to name it parish. Well, that's on y'all. That's about all I have to say. I'll let Gretchen finish up.
thank you. I've got a minute. I appreciate that. I'm here as a resident of parish too, and this is something that we've worked on. One of the things, we have a community, one of the communities in there has all their streets named after parish, and they were marketed as the parish community. And one of the things that we are losing is step at a time, parish as a town. It's not about a person, it's not about individuals, It's about a community that wants to remain a community, have a sense of community, be able to go to their community schools named after their town, parish. And that's what we need to focus on. We have gotten away from what we are all here to do, and that is to support our community with which we live and hear what they have to say. The thousands of people that have signed and emailed and sent letters, those are the ones we need to listen to. And I would appreciate a revisit and a think about what we can do to bring the community and keep this community together so we don't lose it one name at a time.
Thank you all.
All right, Superintendent Saunders, Nearpod Inc.
Yes, I would like to bring up a couple of representatives. I have Elaine and Carlos from Nearpod, and they are here to display a new product that we're providing for our teachers. It is a resource tool. It is not a required resource tool. It is a supplement tool, but it is a bank of interactive lessons from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, aligned to the Florida standards, that are hoping to make it a little bit easier to come up with engaging lessons at a touch of a button. So that's their presentation.
All right. All right. Superintendent Saunders, members of the board, I want to thank you all on behalf of Nearpod for having us here and also partnering with us.
State your name
Oh,
for the
sure.
record, please.
My name is Carlo Amato, and I am the Florida Regional Manager for Nearpod, and I'm joined by my lovely colleague and consultant in Florida.
Hi, I'm Elaine Zarakian. I'm the EL Sales Specialist for Nearpod for Florida.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so just want to thank you for taking some time to see what all students and teachers will have access to this year. This is intended to be somewhat of an interactive experience, as Nearpod is very interactive in the classroom. So we'd like to encourage you to join along with us by going to nearpod.com if you have access to the internet.
Not you could give them one of your tablet. So maybe give Ms.
Minor.
Messenger and Minor can partner together. Maybe Mr. Kennedy, you can help Mr. Fuller.
When you go to
Mr. Minor,
nearpod.com,
I can't wait to see your experience. You can do it, Mr. Minor. Everybody can.
Should I sit next to Mr. Minor?
What's the
he's
code?
got
The
it.
code's off the screen.
and when you go to nearpod.com, you'll enter a code at the top, and that code will be
Okay.
NIAWS. You'll be joining as a student, and I'll be the facilitating as a
My
as a
wife
teacher.
said I am never going back to school again.
If you have the
Not even make believe.
if you have the iPads, you're already logged in.
Yeah.
If you have the iPads, you're already logged
My
in.
iPad's already logged in.
Yep.
Oh, those are already,
Yes, sir.
iPads are
Yes,
on.
sir. Your iPads are logged in. Yes.
Yeah.
okay.
So I can see folks are joining at the moment. And this is indeed how students typically join with Nearpod. We have now integrated with your learning management system, which is Schoology, where all students will be able to join that way as well and experience what you're about to experience here. I'm going to go ahead and proceed. If you're still joining, the code is going to be at the top left corner of the screen. But I would like to take us on to the presentation. You'll be seeing me as a teacher, and then your device is going to have the student experience. I just want to start with the vision of Nearpod, as we recognize that a lot of students have digital devices in their hands. There still exists a divide of how they're using that technology, and we want to encourage teachers and students to use technology in a very effective way, as that is what's the most important here. So I'd like to kind of demonstrate with use of a poll here, and just kind of poll the room and the folks joined right now. How familiar are you with Nearpod? Feel free to submit that. It is anonymous.
What kind of survey is this? Very familiar, somewhat familiar, and very familiar?
Oh, that was me editing that as my demo. I probably missed that one. I apologize.
Well, I'm not familiar at all,
Okay.
but
Answer honestly.
Yeah.
No.
I can't because it's not a choice.
My apologies on that. I was editing this for this presentation specifically and made that mistake. But you'll see as a teacher can see the responses coming up live, and then I can share out the responses to my whole class, where you will see a pie graph of where we stand as a class. This technology is intended to drive rich discussion in the classroom and set a platform for students to have a voice and have the teacher monitor what's happening here. I'm going to quickly move on just for the sake of time, but I also want to take you to a board where students will be able to collaborate their ideas and answer questions. Teachers can use this to access prior knowledge, as students already come to the classroom with experiences, knowledge that they can bring. So they'll be able to contribute their voices and images, how they like to respond here.
And if you like some of the responses, you can click on the heart on the bottom right.
Correct. The teacher does have the ability to approve these messages before they come to the whole class. Just for the sake of this presentation, I trust everybody in the room that will be submitting here, and then so I removed that ability here. For our English language learners, being able to contribute through an image is pretty powerful. They'll be able to even type in their native language, and it'll find an image that way through safe Google search.
Are you saying that it utilizes different languages?
No, sir. Like if a student wants to put in a word that they know in their native language through Google search bar, it'll pop up the image for that word. Or if they type in the English word, same goes there, any language. So I want to talk a little bit about the history. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, no, along your lines of thinking, teachers can actually input Google Translate into a slide deck, and then so if there is a student who does not speak English, would like to translate their first language, they can actually use the Google Translate and then type in their answer that way, so that it is available there for them. Yes.
Sure.
This will work on your phone too, right? I mean, that's part of it. Because I remember looking at this before it came for board work last meeting, and I thought it was really neat. And I was just making sure, because not everyone will have a tablet, but a lot of them will have phones.
Correct. Any device that can access the web would be able to access Nearpod here.
And in fact, most high schools, when teachers actually have the high school students take out their phones, because it's usually not allowed in the classroom. Sure. So when they ask to take out their phones, the students are more willing to participate. Yeah. So, yes.
So Nearpod's a fairly new company. We started in 2012 here in the state of Florida. Our headquarters are right north of Miami, south of Fort Lauderdale. And we first began with more of a digital platform that gives the ability for formative assessment features like you just saw, like the polling, the collaborate, open-ended questioning. But now we realize that teachers really needed resources in their hands that were ready to teach and didn't have time to create powerful, engaging lessons. So now we partnered with publishers where we can have lessons that are standards aligned, engaging for students, built-in formative assessment and multimedia like virtual reality, videos, 3D objects that I'll demonstrate with you today. And then now partnering with learning management systems like the one we have here in Manatee, which is Schoology, to kind of bring everything together for our teachers and make their lives easier. We now have an ecosystem of many different resources and growing right now as we continue to partner with publishers for vetted curriculum that's engaging for students. So I want to take us to a quick sample lesson right here. This is a science lesson that talks about the transformation of potential and kinetic energy that includes research-based instructional models like the 5E model that we have here. I won't take us through all the steps of the 5E model, but teachers will be equipped with research-based lessons already that are ready-made and editable as well. So as we engage our students in discussions around the transformation of energy, we can give them a powerful image that might be more relevant to them than what they might see elsewhere. If you move your mouse around, you'll be able to look around here. If you have a device that has an accelerometer built in, like a phone or an iPad, you'll be able to move that around and kind of give that immersive experience. But kind of a powerful way to engage the classroom in discussion and set the stage for what we're about to discuss. I'm going to move on to a simulation where we can now give them the ability to comprehend abstract concepts like the transformation of kinetic and potential energy. And everyone now has access to manipulate the simulation themselves and kind of play around with this. But as a former math teacher and student, we looked at graphs as static images on pages, and now we can relate these to concrete, real-world experiences and give students that opportunity to engage. In maybe a more traditional classroom, we might have this on an interactive whiteboard. Maybe one or two students might go to the board, but now if we can increase devices here, every student gets the opportunity to engage in the simulation. I'm going to move quickly. I'm sorry if you're playing, but just for the sake of time, we'll bring us to this formative assessment piece where I can now quickly assess how my students comprehended this question. Feel free to draw on this page. Don't feel like you need to answer correctly. This won't be graded, but feel free to send in an image to me, and you can see on my teacher screen how I can instantly get what my students are putting in. And you'll see that I'll be able to share these images and work that my students are bringing to me to the whole class. And once you send something in, I'll go ahead and demonstrate how that works. And while you're drawing, I'll also draw attention to the fact that I can hide and show student names here. I've chosen to hide student names, but we want to give teachers the ability to keep a safe classroom environment. And the whole purpose is to have rich discussion in the classroom and for every student to have a voice and give the teacher a power to present a drawing and share that out amongst the class. I'm going to pause your screens and share out a drawing from somebody in this room and talk about whether we agree with this work or if you have any other suggestions about this work, but not out the student for what they created, whether it's right or wrong, or just to give the quick ability to have a rich discussion in the classroom. I'm going to go ahead and show the power of an open-ended question as well, where we can ask students questions to dig deeper, encourage every student in the classroom to participate and have a voice. And again, you'll see the button where I can share these responses out anonymously and have a discussion around what everyone's thinking here. You'll notice on the top corner is a picture of a slide. Nearpod allows for the ability to in our lessons here, we have different things instead of that picture. It could be a article, a video, any type of multimedia piece there. But the teacher also has the ability to go in and edit those things and bring in something that might be more unique to their classroom. And I'll take you to, as we look at potential kinetic energy into different experiences, feel free to move around and visit some of these locations where we can have a discussion in the classroom about how they're all related. You'll click on Hoover Dam, for example, or the Santa Monica Pier, where we can take our students there. I'll kind of demonstrate that on the screen for those that aren't logged in, but I can go to NASCAR. And the purpose of these images is to give our students different experiences that they may not have access to normally, to go to the Hoover Dam and see really what that is. I'll give you a couple seconds.
technologically challenged.
Okay.
You didn't see what I did with the Hoover.
It's a virtual reality tour.
So it is a tour. And for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and move us along a little bit, but show you how we can even bring in 3D experiences to our students so they can move across the screen. If you're using a touchpad, you can move with your finger and see that. But again, just bringing different experiences for our students. when we look at the struggles that our English language learners have, these high use of visuals and different experiences are really powerful for them, but we also create specific lessons that focus on academic vocabulary and building background, and even those that are new to the English language. Looking at beyond the classroom a little bit into college and career exploration, and we're now focusing on really important social emotional learning skills like self-awareness, social awareness, and even providing access to college tours to equalize the playing field just a little bit more. And then lastly, you all will have access to our whole store of digital citizenship and literacy lessons, which focus on cyberbullying. Now we are current and up to date looking at lessons with social media platforms that students are on today, like Snapchat, and bringing awareness to what impact that has for them. And new to this year, you will have firsthand access to our new coding lessons where students are actually coding within Nearpod. We partner with CodeMonkey and other experiences like that. So I just want to thank you all for your time. We're very excited to partner with you. We're just down the street. We are very committed and have folks right down the street from you that will be servicing your teachers and staff. So thank you, and if you have any questions, we can answer that.
Members, any questions?
We've already purchased that, I think.
I think it was last.
It was last.
And again, teachers can easily pull a lesson by standard, by subject, by grade. So it's to enhance what they're already doing. They can use this and add their own lesson edits to it. So it really does, it's a resource to hopefully make life a little bit easier.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chief Financial Officer Heather Jenkins, come on down.
Oh, yes.
You mean you want those back? Charlie thought it was a gift.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Saunders, Chair Hopes, board members, community. Today, I will begin first by addressing Mr. Nelson's questions before we start our presentation. Ms. Taylor, the Director of Finance, and myself met with Mr. Nelson last week. We discussed with him the difference between the AFR, the budget, and the CAFR. The AFR is mandated by the state. The guidelines are set by the state. We shared with him that the DOE does a review of the AFR, may send back changes that we submit to them. It's in a prescribed format. It's actually a specific Excel spreadsheet that we have to enter our information into. In regards to the CAFR, it's the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. It's governed by ASBO and GFOA. Everything we do is by GAAP rules. It includes a statistical section. The CAFRs do. We work on it around the first week of November. It'll be published in February. The AFR is done in September. It doesn't include OPEB or some health insurance information, and that's because we don't receive it until November. So the AFR will never tie to the CAFR because they include different information. It's similar to a tentative budget versus a final budget. You have what you start with, and you have your final numbers with our audited financial statements, which is the CAFR.
So we're not using the numbers twice.
No.
Okay.
What Mr. Nelson is referring to are transfers. So in our tentative annual budget book, on page 25, you can see the capital. This is from the last meeting that we had, but you can see our capital transfers. So it shows that our transfers out were $15.2 million, And then if you look at the general fund summary page, it will show you that the transfers into the general fund are 15.2. So there is an in and an out. The transfers go out of capital and into general. And you can also see that on our budget ad from the tentative, from our trim notice. Our budget ad shows the difference. Your transfers out equal your transfers in. So it's not counting the numbers twice, it's a movement.
And I, just a note there, I mean, this has come up a few times.
Yes, sir.
Both the internal auditor and the auditors have validated that the way in which we are accounting for those transfers is within the generally accepted accounting principles.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Forgive me, I was sick a couple weeks ago and I still have a bit of a cough, so I apologize ahead of time.
It hangs around for a while.
It does. This afternoon I have with me Gina Malinak. She's our senior budget analyst, and I want to start by thanking the budget department for all their hard work. They are a great team and very supportive and have put together a lot of good information. So I have a lot of things to share with you. I'll do my best to get through it quickly. If you have questions, please let me know. I want to start by talking about our property values and millages. The first slide summarizes our trim calendar, which is mandated by the Florida Department of Revenue. It talks about on the first day, July 1st, you've heard me talk about our DR 420S or our tax estimate from the property appraiser's office. That's when we receive our official notification of our property values, and it starts our clock ticking. 24 days from that, the superintendent is required to send a budget to the board. That was our tentative budget hearing, where you reviewed the tentative budget and voted on it. Within 29 days, we have to send the tentative millage rates to the property appraiser's office, which we do. Then we have to have our trim ads within 2 to 5 days prior to our budget hearing. There's a small window. So as we wait for numbers from the Department of Education, we talk about our tentative budget. We prepare our trim ads. It's a very tight window, but you have to have those done between 2 and 5 days of the hearing. Within 35 days of the certification of values, the district notifies the property appraiser of our tentative millage. On day 55, the property appraiser will mail the trim notice out, so they send it out to all of our property owners in Manatee County. Within 65 to 80 days, we hold a public hearing on the final budget, which that will be September 4th. And then 3 days after that, we send our final millage rate to the property appraiser, and we send a packet of information to the Department of Revenue following that. This slide represents the inverse of our property values related to millage. As you can see, there's a small change in the bottom line, but it'll show you as our property values increase, our millage decreases. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. This is a copy of one of the slides from our trim ad. We actually went through this in our tentative budget hearing. The most important piece of this is in order for us to receive $173,696,440 in state education grants, we are required to assess the millage given to us by the state. The slide also shows, we talked about the rollback rate at the tentative hearing, so this is just a replication of that. Gross taxable value. Last year, our property taxes were about $35.8 million. This year, they're at $38.8, which is an increase of 8.35%. This slide shows our required local effort is lower than it was last year. We don't have a prior year adjustment this year like we did last year. Our discretionary operating remains the same. We've added our additional mill. Local capital improvement is the same. So overall, with the addition of the 1 mill and the decrease in the required local effort, our millage in total is 72/10 higher than it was last year. That being said, if we look at our property increase in dollars, we're about $2.9 billion higher than we were last year for our property values. And what that means to us, with our current millage rate, even though it's lower than it was last year, we will see an increase of about $2.2 million in receipts, and that's due to our higher property values. Our discretionary operating millage will show us about $2.1 million in an increase. Our additional voted mill is about $37.3 million. Our capital outlay generates about $4.3 million for a total overall millage increase of $45.9 million. This slide shows a sample home value in Manatee County of $250,000. That's the current average. We see the $25,000 homestead exemption, which can affect the school board, giving us a base value of $225,000 for comparison. This is with no increase projected for, just to show you what the rates are with no increase in property value. So our required local effort would generate $918 more. That's what the taxpayer would pay. Our discretionary operating, $168. Additional voted millage, about $225. Local capital improvement, $337, for a subtotal of $730. And the total millage increase is $1,649. So the increase from a prior year to this year, which is predominantly due to our additional voted millage, combined with the decrease, is about $162. If you look at the impact on property owners when you take into consideration the 8.35% increase, as a total, it would be about $315 per property owner. Student growth is our next section. For student growth, we're projecting a decrease at this time of about 293. We monitor our student counts as the year goes on. This is FTE and not actual students. And we'll talk about weighted FTE in the next couple of slides. But we're given three numbers by the state, a high, a middle, and a low, based on our enrollment, the effects of Hurricane Irma. Sometimes when we have bad weather, we'll have less students moving into our system throughout the year. So we went with the lower number to be safe. Our unweighted FTE is 48,686. That's our projected number at this time.
Heather, just for a second, I just
Yes,
want to
sir.
make sure that everybody caught what she said with regards to and for the audience, the numbers that we use in setting our budget with regards to student counts are provided to us by the Florida Department of Education as a high, a medium, and a low number. And for example, I think last year we went
The middle.
with the middle, the median number. And this year, to begin, finalizing the budget, we opted with Heather's leadership, opted to adopt the Department of Education's low projection for setting out the budget. So we don't make up these numbers. The Department of Education, with their analytics, provides us options to use. So.
There's a program
Right.
we have in a
Right.
department. Yes, it's very, very in-depth. Our total tentative budget by fund, and this includes our internal service funds. We've talked about before, we leave that out of the tentative budget to be consistent with our trim ads. But it's $886,701,579,000. Of that, our operating budget is $471 million. Trust and agencies, $174,000. Internal service fund, $66 million. Food service, $37 million. Special revenue, which are grants, $35.5 million. Capital, $235 million. And debt service, about $42 million. I rounded those. We're going to talk today about the general fund, and at our next workshop, we'll talk more in depth about capital. So the biggest piece of the general fund, our funding components are made up of our student FTE, our program cost factors, the base student allocation, the district cost differential, categorical funding, and any other adjustments which would be prorations or prior period funding adjustments. The base FEFP equation on which everything is built is our full-time equivalent multiplied by our program cost factors, by the base student allocation, by the district cost differential, and that equals your base funding. Our weighted FTE is 52.2 thousand this year. What makes weighted FTE? We have program cost factors. So these program cost factors indicate what each grouping is multiplied by to give your weight. So for our basic education grade K through 12, it went up a little this year. Grades 9 through 12, the weight went down a little. ESOL intensive English grades went down a very tiny amount. ESE support for level 5 went up, and our career education grade 9 through 12 went down a little bit, the weight. So you can compare our program number, what that program number means, and what it was last year compared to our weight this year. Our base student allocation went up 47 cents. Last year it was $4,203.95. This year it's $4,204.42. We've had a couple conversations already about why this is a minimal increase. As you look, prior years, it went up $100 to a couple $100. This year, it's very minimal.
48 cents, right?
47, about 47.
So I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Let's be clear.
Hold on.
I apologize.
Mr. Cologne.
No, so that 47 cents is the additional money the state sent to us.
Yes, they've increased the base student allocation by 47 cents. So when you apply that to our funding formula, it does increase our funding a bit.
Okay. And do you have any reason why it's only 47 cents?
That's all they could afford this year.
Did you think it was
Based on their lottery funding, it's the funding that they take in, their projections, the funding needed across the state, how much they dedicate to different programs. It's decided in the session.
Yeah, I know it's decided by the state reps, not the governor.
I think it had
understand.
something to do with the $440 million that went into security and mental and behavioral health and school hardening and all that following the shooting. But at any rate, Mr. Minor?
No, I just think it's pathetic. The importance of education in our community, in all communities, it might not, provide more than 47 cents, per student. It goes for all sorts of things besides, teachers, but for, bus drivers, for the gas for our buses, and all those things are increasing in costs that we have to meet. From past year, and it's 47 cents, and I consider it legislative malpractice. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, Mr. Minor. Mr. Cologne?
I don't disagree. Well, I wouldn't call it legislative malpractice, but I do agree with Mr.
But he's an
Minor.
attorney now. He's an attorney, though.
Yeah, he's an attorney, so he can use those words. I seem to suspect that I heard that they anticipated that, although I think it's much too low. I think they anticipated an increase in property values due to the turnaround in the economy, noting that we were going to get more money from the increase in property values, especially here in Manatee County. So is that how we ended up with more money?
Yes, sir. There is an inverse, just like you see with
Relationship.
our millage. Whenever our required local effort increases, our state funding typically decreases unless there's a mandate that year.
Because, I just wanted to get that out because I know it's not the whole story, the fact that it was only 47 cents. I think it should have been a lot more. However, I know that they're counting the dollars from up there in Tallahassee, saying, well, they're going to get more money from the increase in property values, so why should we give them more? It's bad reasoning, but there's no accounting for their reasoning.
Continuing.
Continuing on, the next piece is our district cost differential. This is the cost of living. It compares the cost of living for county to county. It's based on a 3-year average. So our multiplier this year is 0.9872. So our cost of living adjustment is a little bit lower. Some years we received more money, some years they would take away. So this is actually a deduction in our FEFP because of our cost of living compared to other counties in the state.
Mr. Kennedy?
Heather, I should know this myself, but I'm going to ask you because I'm sure you do. There was an effort in the, it started with a couple of school board members, I can't remember from which county, to get rid of this cost differential formula because essentially the wealthier, the larger districts are subsidizing the smaller, more rural districts, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't believe that went anywhere in the legislature though this time around.
No, I believe that it died. Also, some of the more wealthy districts have a much higher required local effort.
Yeah.
Like Key West, down in the Key West area, they have most of their funding is made up of their required local effort, so their state funding is very minimal. So that follows the whole inverse relationship to Monroe County.
Right. It would be unlikely because the education budget is not the only one that has donor counties and receiving counties, and it's really across almost all state funding. You have that, but that being said, you know, as you're probably aware, the disparity in pre-K funding, you know, which has been far more influenced by legislators who are in leadership. It's not as inverse because I think if, you know, like Miami-Dade County has a disproportionate, you know, positive take from pre-K, but the state funding guidelines across most sectors have donor counties and recipient counties.
Our next slide talks about the summary of all of our general fund revenue sources. Our general revenue is estimated to be $471 million. That's broken down by state funding, which is about 40%. Federal funding is about 1%. Our beginning fund balance shows here at 6%. That's what our ending fund balance this year in 17-18 will be. It's at $29.6 million here. We haven't completely closed the year yet, so I will have that final number for you when we do our final budget. Our transfers in from other sources, as Mr. Nelson spoke about, that's from capital and other areas, so that's about $15 million or 3%. And our local revenue, which is our required local effort, our millage dollars, are about 50%. So it makes up half of our allocation. Here we've broken down our revenue by sources so that you can see a comparison in how the funding trended. In 15-16, we actually had more federal revenue than we're anticipating in 18-19. It depends on grant funding. Our state revenue, you can see, is increased about $16 million from 173 in 15-16 to 189 estimated. Our local revenue is up significantly. That's our millage dollars. And our transfers, they're up a little bit over 15-16, definitely up over 16-17, and they're down from 17-18, and that's a result of charter school funding that we'll talk about in depth later on. It's not included in this year's budget by state guidelines. Our this is a breakdown of all of our funding by type. So you can see we receive funding from ROTC for ROTC teachers. That's at about $525,000. Medicaid funding is at $2 million. Our miscellaneous federal funding is at $2,500. We don't budget for anything that we're not certain of receiving. So sometimes when you see other federal through state, those are grants that could come in through the year. So if you see that we have dollars in our actuals, but we don't have the award letters or guarantees at this time or anticipated applications, then we haven't included that here. Our other miscellaneous state revenue is at $1.2 million. We have our class size reduction allocation, which is part of our FEFP, at $53 million. Workforce development, that's for it goes to Manatee Technical College, and that's a set amount from the state. Our FEFP is a set amount. State license tax, this is based on a 4-year average. Our school recognition funds is a set amount as part of our FEFP. CO and DS with admin expense cost, we're estimating that at $28,000 based on trend. Our discretionary lottery is set by the state. It's also part of the FEFP. Performance-based incentives, we do not have any of that estimated at this time. Voluntary pre-K program is based on state funding and enrollment. It's at 1.7.
Can I ask a question?
You said 1.7, that's a 17-18 budget, but you're.
Oh, I'm sorry.
you're
I
1 point-
apologize.
Almost 1.9.
Thank you, sir.
Vice Chair Messenger.
I just had a question about school recognition funds. I
Yes,
noticed that
ma'am.
it went up dramatically, and I was wondering why.
School recognition is based on the schools that move a letter grade or those that maintain an A grade. In the beginning, when they publish the second calculation, it's based on our prior year award. So once we receive our actual grades, they will issue our actual amount. We receive a letter communication and go in at that point. So we budget the whole amount, set it in a reserve, and then once we receive our official award, we adjust that based on what they tell us and then distribute it to the schools.
So that's because the school grades have gone up and things have improved.
Yes, ma'am, we have, our school grades have increased significantly.
Thank
So,
you.
and, you know, what the Vice Chair brings up is an important point of the board's focus and the superintendent's focus on continuing our momentum to increase our school grades. As the Chancellor for USF Sarasota Manatee, who has joined us, will tell you, in the state university system, they have really accelerated the rate of performance funding. And what you're seeing is a result of the efforts of the district to continue to improve our school grades. And these school grades, as we improve and we get more A schools, we get more money to further invest in our programs to continue our trek to being #1 in the state. And so it's very important that the parents, the students, our educators in the classroom are focusing on it, because this is how we get additional financial resources to continue to expand our programs, to continue to reward our successful educators. And if you look at the trend, I mean, we are being rewarded, and it shows up, you know, in our bottom line.
Very good point.
Can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
Mr. Clone.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I just want to back up for a minute. I was just looking at the Medicaid funding here. In 15-16, we got almost 2.54 million, and I see it went down in 16-17. It's back up in 17-18 to 2 million, but you're projecting it at a flat rate of 2 million going forward. Does that mean you think the Title I schools will stay the same, or we won't get additional students that qualify for this?
A couple years ago, we switched Medicaid billing providers, and we believe that we will maintain consistent with our level of services. As we increase our purview over that program, it will continue to increase in our funding, but we wanted to stay consistent level with about 2 million, and then we review that monthly, and then we make quarterly adjustments if we see that we're picking up additional.
Because that could change with the 10-day count, couldn't it?
The Medicaid services are.
Well, no, I know they're billed quarterly, but I'm saying we could get significantly more students that are Title I students when we do the 10-day count. So that would tend to change it for that quarter.
We could, yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure it's not a static number.
No, that number can definitely change.
Okay.
Our local sources, again, this is a history that can show you that we went from 184 million in 15-16 to 234 million in 18-19. It gives you a comparison of the different things that make up our funding. Our general fund revenue is more complex than just our FEFP funding and our local sources or our millage funds. So I wanted to give you a snapshot of what all's included in that. And then we, okay. Then we have our other financing sources, which would include sale of land, transfers from capital, or transfers from any other funds. That's the final piece of our revenue.
So I noticed on this, I guess we did not have any proceeds from sale of land in 17-18, or did the parish property, did that come in?
It went into capital. The proceeds from land typically go into the fund from which the land was purchased.
Right.
So those went into our capital fund.
So why in 16-17 did we have it? Because I'm assuming that land is capital.
Right.
So
You
why
can-
did we have it in the general revenue for prior years but not projected for this year?
In 15-16, we received permission to include it in the general fund based on our need of funding, I believe. We'd have to go back and look at the history. And 16-17.
So you think we pulled money out
There was
to
a,
go
it
into
was,
the general fund?
it was researched, and I wasn't part of that research, but I know as they went back, depending on how those dollars were spent, that was the amount that could be included in the general fund.
Okay.
Again, I'd have to look it up for you because I wasn't part of that.
Okay.
Same thing would go with 16-17.
Because normally we would not see,
No, sir.
okay,
It
Right.
goes into where it was purchased from.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about school safety. We talked you had mentioned school safety, security, mental health allocation. So the next pieces that we're going to talk about are our categorical allocations. They're part of our FEFP funding. So for Safe Schools, we received $2.6 million in funding. We've detailed here our security department costs, our safety department cost, estimated cost of guardians, estimated cost of resources, training and startup supply cost, off-duty traffic, charter and alternative schools. So here you see this is an object code view. It'll look a little bit different than the budgets that we've provided you for the guardians in the past, but that's because those were itemized based on type of use, and here we've included the whole, a report based on object codes. What this slide says to you is for our safe school allocation and safety and security, we are supplementing $1.7 million out of our discretionary funding to support this program. The next allocation is our reading allocation. We receive about $2.1 million.
So, yeah, so hold on,
Sure.
Heather, just a sec. So going back to the safe schools allocation, would it be correct that the deficit of meeting the requirements under safe schools, under the act, the Marjorie Douglas Act, we are budgeting for a deficit of close to $1.8 million
Yes.
to meet the requirements in that legislation,
Yes.
including our including the charter school allocation.
Yes.
Okay, so
You
Mr.
are
Colon?
correct.
Okay. Mr. Kennedy? Mike?
Thank you, Joyce. Mr. Chair, you mentioned earlier that the reason we're looking at 47 cents per student is because, and I agree with you, that the legislature decided to divert funding to safety, mental health. I guess what I want to drill down to is there's a safe schools allocation every year.
Right.
And Heather, what was our safe schools allocation the year before?
One moment, please.
Sure, take your time.
Yeah, and I was trying to remember where the budget stood before the shooting. Because it came in about the time, and so it would be interesting to go back and look at the budget as it stood before the event, where they then had to just start over again with regards to the education budget, to see where it would have been had they not put, hundreds of millions of dollars
That's exactly what I'm after.
into
yeah.
that.
Just a general idea
Yeah.
of what that number is.
It was $1,093,587 in the fourth count.
1,092,000,
93.
93,000. So we're looking at
About $1.6 million.
$1.6 million more.
$1.5 million yeah, $1.6 million increase in our safe schools. And so, if you wanted to back into it, we could look at, you could allocate that to the FTE and see what that would be. You know, we were saying 47 cents, but if that same amount of money had been put into the you know, to the operating funds or the discretionary funds.
We could calculate that.
No, I'm just curious. So Heather, correct me if I'm wrong. So we have received about 1.55 million in addition from the state for Safe Schools.
Yes.
And then, but even with that additional 1.5 million, we're still putting in 1.75 million
Yes.
to cover the requirements of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas,
Yes.
or excuse me, the Aaron Feist Guardian
Right.
program. Yeah.
Right. And so, and I've added onto the agenda for our joint session with Sarasota and Charlotte counties, because it would be interesting to see what, you know, where they're coming in from a deficit perspective. Because I think it's going to be important for us to take this information to Tallahassee in this budget year, now that the districts are experiencing the actual cost of implementation, so that we can, you know, hopefully get relief.
Ask for more.
Relief, right.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Jenkins.
Okay. Next, we have our reading allocation. We received $2,135,182. We spend that on teacher aid, professional and technical services, rentals, printing, and various other items. This allocation doesn't go over, but the reading allocation can also be used with our SAI allocation, supplemental academic. So both of those can be used for enhancement.
And for discussion purposes, do you know what our allocation from the state was for this last year?
I will leave that open. So reading last year was $2,159,502. It actually decreased $24,320. Our supplemental academic instruction is at $12,316,000. Last year, our SAI allocation was $12,260,417, so it has gone up a bit. ESE guaranteed allocation, we received $20,669,036. Last year for ESE, we received $20,580,256. These numbers are from the fourth calc, and that's an increase of $88,780. ESE is one of the areas where we do have to supplement a lot. So you can see that we spend $17 million in teachers, $3.9 million in teacher aid. We have benefits associated with those. Professional and technical, a portion of this is paid from the general fund. Another portion is paid by our IDEA grant. We have $2 million of this allocation that goes to the charter schools. So we are supplementing almost $15 million.
And these expenses within the ESE guaranteed allocation, are these mandated expenses, or is this how we are meeting the requirements?
These are how we are meeting the service needs of our students. We also have something called a maintenance of effort that each year when we have for our ESE expenses, if you spend $35 million in this fiscal year, in order to receive our grant dollars, we have to meet what they call a maintenance of efforts. We have to spend at least the same amount of dollars in subsequent years for that requirement.
Superintendent, do we know how our deficit in this category compares to other districts?
No, I've not looked at any other district's ESE expenditure, because it will vary based
Right.
on population of ESE students and their special needs and services that are driven by IEPs, so it is kind of hard to match apples to apples. it just depends on their population of services and students.
Because I think this has been the case for a number of years, that our allocation, our restricted allocation of these dollars doesn't even come close to meeting the expenses.
Correct. We do have a large ESE population, and we have a large population of ESE preschool students that have increased tremendously over the last few years, which have really added to the expense of where we're diverting and adding resources and support.
So given the fact that it seems to be a consistent trend, it may be a worthy exercise to try to get a handle on how, either it's through the District School Superintendents Association, if they've got an idea of, what type of counties are experiencing what we're experiencing, because this seems to be a recurring, deficit.
Our director has reached out and worked with other districts. Of course, Walene's been in her position for quite some
Right,
time.
right.
Just to see what rubrics and services and contracts they're using for some of these needs. And we have made some modifications, but it is an area that we do spend a lot of resources in.
Well, and I think,
Absolutely.
and if we find that other counties are experiencing the same type of deficit or same level of deficit, then maybe we need to take a serious look at, federal budgeting and state budgeting. We're kind of focused on the deficit for safe schools, but this is one that's even larger. And every year, we have a similar deficit in what we feel we need to spend in order to meet the needs of these students versus what we're being compensated for to deliver it.
What you will see is we're spending a lot of dollars on contracted
Services.
service. And that's probably the
The
place
bulk of
to
it.
look on where we're a little out of kilter.
Okay, so
It's
look at-
beyond our original staffing plan.
So we've made you look at the cost effectiveness of how we're delivering the services. Okay. All right, thank you. Move on.
Digital classroom education, we received 1.1 million for technology-related expenditures. Currently, we have 1.1 million. That's for our electronic materials that are used within the classrooms. The state used to require a grant that was submitted. Now it's now we just receive an allocation. It was a
They require
plan.
a survey
Survey
still to
plan.
submit, but it's
It's become recurring.
Yes.
we just don't know when it's going to end, but as of recent years, it is one of those things that we are receiving on a regular basis, yes.
Correct. DJJ, which is Department of Juvenile Justice funding, we received $268,967 between staff, benefits, other purchase services, and printing and materials. We exceed that allocation by $284,980. Virtual education.
Mr. Chair, could you go over how we get this funding? Is it based upon the number of students there?
It
Or
is.
is
It's
this
based
just a
on-
line item?
It's
This is all
part
you
of-
get?
It's part of a very complex calculation that DOE performs in order to give us our FEFP allocation. It's categorical funding. So the calculation to determine this takes up about a whole page, and I can sit down and share that with you at some point. There are a lot of factors, but the main factor is FTE. And then they break it down by needs of all the counties in the state, needs of all the other funding. It's a pretty big formula.
Okay, well, I guess that the needs of the student, a student who does not have mental problems, or emotional problems, or significant history of criminal activity would probably be more than someone with just very small, but most of these are very high need, students involved with the program, if I'm correct. Is that basically it? And I'm in all this complications of complicated formula that the state uses to, fund this necessary program, which results in paying just about half of the actual cost. Okay. I guess it just comes down to, again, trying to persuade, educate, harass, our legislators, and, this is what we're supposed to do. This is extra cost. And we do have a legislature that's supposed to be providing for these costs. Please step up to your duty. I guess that's what it comes down to. And just half of this, I think, is unfortunate. I won't use the other term, but very unfortunate. Thank you.
Superintendent Saunders.
Mr. Minor, you are correct. We did have to add some additional resources and staff in the last couple of years to accommodate the needs of the students. So whether the state provides all the funding or not, the students' needs do drive our support, just like you see with our ESE budget. So like many of the things that you've discovered on our presentation today, sometimes it doesn't cover it, but we have to find a way to make it happen, and that's why those additional resources really that the community supported us with have really made a huge difference in what's going on in Manatee County.
Thank you.
So on this, the other purchased services, is that we're contracting out with other entities to provide something, or is it?
There are employees.
Other purchased services are our employees? We just don't call them teachers?
Some are contracted. It's,
Okay.
yes.
Right.
Because normally our teachers and our instructional assistants make up the bulk of our
Correct.
cost, but in this case, our printing and supplies and our other purchased services, what I suspect is outsourcing maybe.
Yes, Ms. Saunders is correct. They're individuals that are serving our students. They're just contracted. They're not our employees. You are correct, outsourced.
Speech, sometimes OT, PT, other type of educational services. we contract out.
Specialized.
Right.
All right, virtual education allocation.
So our allocation, this has declined significantly since we started receiving the digital classroom allocation. We receive $8,581. Last year it was $8,525. So it's been the last several years it's been declining. Our expense, this is for our online online education. We're required to have 3 providers. So we're at $1,246,316, which is about, we fund almost the entire program.
Right, is this the area where we've reduced our direct scope of providing the service and we're using Florida Virtual more, or?
Well, we're hoping not to. We ended up spending a lot of our FTE with Florida Virtual. Instead of doing that, we've changed the scope of how we're delivering to model it like Florida Virtual so that we're able to capture the FTE within our own district. So by not having full-time teachers, like a brick and mortar calendar, and having part-time based on the student needs and what they want to take, and then hire the teacher to match it. I do believe that we're going to see some changing on what we're spending on it this next year.
That's what I thought I recalled. Thank you.
You're welcome. Instructional materials, we receive almost $4 million. This is this predominantly goes to our instructional materials. Within this, you have also science labs, media materials, so that's why it all doesn't appear to go to textbooks. We have other items that we purchase. Transportation, we receive a $7,705,779 allocation. Our expense is about $16 million. We're at $8.3 million over our allocation. It's divided into so many different categories that we put it on a couple different slides for you. A large portion of it is our support personnel, our bus drivers. We have budgeted in the hopes that we will eventually be fully staffed in that area. We have our benefits that are associated, rentals, any type of software. We've also got, as a large expense, our other purchase services, which are our contractual services. That goes into, a portion of that is for our ESE transportation, one-on-one transportation, diesel fuel, and a distribution to charter schools is 1.3 million. So you'll see in all of these categorical allocations, we're required to give a portion to our charter schools.
Right.
And as their population increases, that allocation increases.
What may be helpful in these, this allocated funding is to look at the ratio of the funds we get for these categories compared to our cost, and show that as it relates to our local required effort, and then our own taxes, because our whole funding is, we get money from the state, we draw down money for the state, and these are the types of allocations.
I have a slide you may like.
Okay, because I think the theme is here, but it caught my attention that, we are expected to, out of the local revenues that we generate, contribute to all these, so.
And I think we may have to add to it, but I think we've covered the bases on that.
Okay, thank
So
you.
that'll be,
I
you
knew
can let me know what we
I knew
need
you
to
would do
add.
that. And your team has done an exceptional job
Thank you.
with this.
They've
I really
worked
appreciate
really
it.
hard, really hard. Oops, I went too far. Our teacher lead program, we receive that's our teacher classroom supply assistance. It's showing 937,000. We do receive a list of teachers that are eligible. Finance puts that together, determines the allocation, and we send that out to the teachers. So this number as well may change depending on eligibility. It's called Teacher Classroom Assistance. A certain dollar amount is given to each teacher so that they can buy classroom supplies to help.
That's like $250 each?
Yes, about. The amount can change, depends on how many teachers are eligible every year, but it's close to that.
Was not allocated by the state legislature
We
separately?
we receive an allocation, then we receive a list of
Eligible.
teachers, and then the allocation specific amounts determined using that list.
And we give it to the teachers, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The teachers are required to keep receipts for what they purchase. They submit those. We have an Office Depot program too, that they can actually go directly to Office Depot and get their supplies.
Okay. No, I ask because I get complaints from teachers that they spend significant amounts of money on supplies and that they never received the $250
No,
that the
sir.
governor had originally allocated.
We do.
They get it, okay.
Distribute that, yes. Our discretionary lottery, this is school recognition and also discretionary lottery. How that works, if the state gives out all their school recognition funds and then we have anything remaining, they divide that up by the schools. We dedicate that funding to our student improvement plan. We give each school $5 per FTE, but what our district does is we allocate those funds anyway. And then if we receive lottery funding, it covers it. If not, it's a district expense so that we can make sure they have it.
Okay.
Class size reduction, we receive $52,703,656. Our instructional units are at about $148 million. Combined with benefits, our total is $196 million, putting us at $143 million over our allocation in order to meet class size. How that's determined is by our number of teachers required to keep our class size, the ratio of teachers to students. So that's a very, very large one. Okay, so here's the slide I think you may like. Our non-categorical funding, which is our base funding, our required local effort, proration, declining enrollment supplement, and a discretionary compression, is $289,171,115. So we've listed for you our safe school overage, our ESE overage, DJJ overage, virtual education, instructional materials, transportation, and class size, which our total costs exceeding categorical funding are $169,721,974. leaving our remaining discretionary funding, which is funding we can spend on any item that's not listed here, non-specific items, is about 119 million. What I wanted to convey to you with this slide is that these things, like our safe schools, our ESC programs, we have to spend the funding that we're given specifically dedicated to these programs. And in addition to that, we have to supplement it in order to meet the needs of our students. Other general revenue funding, we included this slide just so that you could see, we do have Medicaid funding, which comes in and is used again to meet the needs of those students that we provide for. We have post-secondary vocational education course fees. That would be MTC. So that funding goes back into providing those courses. So these are other sources of revenue that are budgeted out for these specific purposes. Our general fund expenditures by function. This is a way that we have distributed these functions to show you how these slides, the session of slides works, is we have our 17-18 budget, we have our year-to-date expense, we have our 18-19 tentative budget, our plan. We've listed those along the bottom and included the increases for you to see. So our change from budget to budget is about 36 million. Our change from actual expense to tentative is about 50 million. Some reasons in the 5,000 instructional function that our actuals are lower than our budget would be attrition, positions we were unable to fill. The increase that you see from last year to this year is based on our referendum dollars and the increase in our day, which will be reflected in salaries and also our supplements that are given to our teachers. We've also increased classroom rentals, and our charter school charter schools are receiving $5.4 million, which is a $3.6 million increase in payment to, including a $3.6 million increase to payment, and that's due to a newly converted charter school. So that would be about $9 million diverted to charters. 6100 function is our pupil personnel services. This reflects our new funding for our mental health allocation of 1.2 million and supplements that were budgeted in function 6100. Those are employees coded to that function. That would describe our increase for that as well. General fund expenditures by function, 6200 instructional media. Those are salaries and benefits due to the addition of 3 new media specialists to serve our students. General fund expenditures by function, 6300 are curriculum. These are decreased salaries and benefits because we had a reduction of a library manager, and it reflects the director of our federal programs and other administrative positions being moved to a federal grant because they're once again eligible to be paid from there. 6400, which is instructional staff training. We transferred salaries and benefits of 2 curriculum specialists to a Title II grant. Those are also newly eligible positions. We increased professional development for instructional leadership and faculty, and a new STEM coordinator position was added that can be associated with the referendum. Our expenditures by function for instructional technology. This shows our digital classroom allocation. The reason the actual expenditures appear to be higher than what was budgeted is because we utilized roll forward funds to complete a project, so that's reflected in our actuals. Those are not reflected in our beginning budget. Board, function 7100, the budget increase is primarily due to a 26% increase for audit services. The decrease over our actual expense is due to the special election costs were paid from this function. General admin, increased salary and benefits due to merit increases. This is due to, can be noted due to the raises associated with the referendum and raises from last year, and increased professional and technical services due to a new contract for our legislative liaison to help us through legislative session. 7,300 school administration, our SAMP school administrators, referendum funding, startup salaries for our new schools, for the employees we need to begin. Function 7,400, facilities acquisition and construction. Our charter schools budgeted $4.4 million for millage and 1.5 for PICO. The way that they have funded the charter schools is different this year. The state's actually providing them with a level of funding, and then we're supplementing that with a charter school block grant. Our general fund expenditures by function for fiscal services, we added some new positions which are partially offset by transferring a position to benefits, and we also have an equipment refresh. Function 7,700, central services, those are where our 2 lead guardians are budgeted. We also added a few positions in benefits to work with our new system. We increased a print shop lease and transferred 2 positions to the warehouse from central services. Function 7,800, transportation, we added vehicle maintenance. It shows you positions we added, increases in salaries and benefits, and increases in other purchase services due to us requiring an ESE third-party transportation. So where we looked in our transportation section and saw that increase, this reflects the increase in this function. Operation of plant, our risk management insurance has increased a little bit this year, which can be expected. We have an increase in salaries for our AFSCME personnel due to their referendum dollar contribution. We have enhanced safe school programs of $1 million and a Hurricane Irma cost from last year that was $0.9 million that won't be repeated in this year. That shows the offset. Sure.
Yes, Mr. Kennedy.
Heather, are we still waiting for any money from FEMA?
We are. It will be a while.
Yes. Yes.
We have to submit our request through the county.
That was a trick question.
Yes,
I just
sir.
wanted to get that out.
8,100, maintenance of
Only
plant.
2
It's an
years.
increase in special school maintenance due to deferred maintenance.
Ms. Jenkins, just for planning purposes, we're like way over on the time. How much longer do you think it's going to be?
10 minutes? I can make it real fast. What do you want me to cut out?
How about 5?
Yeah,
All
how
right.
about 5?
So our administrative technology is function 8,200. You can see that we are a little bit over this year from last year. It's for software rental and licensor fees. Community service. This reflects our EDEP, which is after-school enrichment programming. So we do see an increase, but they do generate their own revenue. We will let you all review the general fund expenditures by object, and you can contact me if you have any questions. The only thing I'll point out is a large variance for teachers. Anytime you see a large variance in a salary object, it's predominantly due to our referendum dollars, our salary increases.
Can you go back to that, please?
Where would you like to go back?
Well, to 4120.
Page 64?
Mm-hmm. $24.9 million is the difference in what we've added to the budget over our actual cost from last year.
Okay, from 126 million.
That's our,
185,279 to 151 million.
that is our year-to-date expense. Yes, sir. And that includes what we've added for our referendum time adjustment and supplements. That's why you see that large of an increase.
Okay, that's both what, the 47 cents or part of, whatever the state, plus the referendum money, correct?
This is predominantly due to our referendum dollars and our supplements that we're able to give based on the passing of our 1 mil referendum.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. These are divided by section, so you can see the type of object code, and you'll be able to look through those. School-based funding breakdown, if you want to see our school-based funding based on FTE, we have that by school, elementary, middle, and high. I do want to point out that where you see a reduction in percentage, this is not a decrease in services. This is due to our decreased projected FTE. And in areas where you see that it has increased, that individual school may have had an increase in FTE. Our trim advertisements, those were in the newspaper on the 22nd, July 21st in the Bradenton Herald. They're also part of our tentative budget. And the last slide is our general fund financial condition. So, in June of 2015, our appropriated and unappropriated fund balance equaled 4.11%. 6/30 of 16, we were at 3.72. 6/30 of 17, we were at 4.92. 6/30 of 18, we are projecting that we will have a 5.35% fund balance of appropriated and unappropriated funds. By statute, we're required to have 3%. Our policy says we will have 3%, but we strive to have 5%. So we made it.
Yes, thank you. Even with funding additional school
We,
armed officers towards
it's,
the
I
last
mean,
year.
when I started, we were $8.3 million in the negative, so we've come a very long way.
We have, thank you very much.
And our estimated is 3.85. That is total unappropriated or unassigned fund balance. So anything that's assigned will be added to that as we close out the year. And the final slide explains fund balance. Unassigned is unassigned totally. So when we present you the financials and say we have a $16 million fund balance, that's purely unassigned. Assigned is anything that moves in our PR roll forwards as we close the year. Restricted are categorical and digital classroom, things like that. And then we have non-spendable, which is inventory. Oftentimes we have questions. You told us it was 16.9. Why is it 30? That's why we have all these components.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Meyer?
One quick one.
Okay, I believe it was Mr. Colon who asked about FEMA reimbursement, and they changed the rules so that beginning last year, the county commissioners are the ones through which we seek reimbursement for expenses we have for hurricane safety. But the year before, before that, it was directly our filing with FEMA. And I know we did have expenses, and we provided care for many citizens coming from the East Coast particularly. Have we been reimbursed for that yet?
No, sir.
No.
We have not. It takes a long, several years for our FEMA reimbursement to be computed and to go through.
And I think, Mr. Meyer, what you're
Okay.
referring to,
Depends.
the
All right.
state, Mr. Meyer, what you're referring to, the state actually received the money, and there are a number of counties that are in the situation we're in trying to get the state to release the money to us, because that was a couple years ago. That was before this most recent change, but we have people that are working on that with a couple of counties, so. Thank you. Mr. Kennedy. Heather, one.
Quick, easy one.
Of course.
If you know, and I only asked because this came up in the conversation last week, but if you know, when was the last time the district had surpassed 5% for the fund balance, for our fund balance?
I do not know that, but I can find that out for you. It was not within the last 7 years, to my knowledge.
Okay, thanks, Heather.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And, so we are going to take a short recess before the next session. We're going to have to split up a little bit. So my idea was we seem to have been pretty effective in our board training sessions where we actually were around a table and we could carry on a discussion and we could, actually see each other. And so the thought was that we would have at the end of each workshop a session where we would just talk through a particular topic or issue and be able to sit across the table from each other. We didn't have a round table, so we have a rectangular round table. But in addition to that, today, that is part of the topic in leading us into a discussion about strategy, is in looking at two distinct communities where we've had a lot of activity, we've got a lot of construction, but we really haven't had a strategy. we've just sort of have planned for buildings and gone through redistricting and things like that. We're fortunate to have a few guests with us that are related to the topic, and we'll introduce them when we get to our rectangular roundtable. And that is a team from the University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee, led by Dr. Karen Holbrook, the chancellor. So if we'll just take a very brief recess so they can get our round rectangular table set up, and then we'll reconvene down there. So we'll stand in an informal recess for 5 minutes.
That one, the red light's not on, but.
We really try not to talk about work because our marriage is number one, and if we talk about work, it would help.
husband being a video guy, like he gains all his, like he learned how to fix our toilet by watching a YouTube video. Like everything is video, you know, and that's how people, that's what people share now. So I think that's relevant. Whether they're good people. I think he really loves what he does when he gets to be creative and make videos. I think he likes that. Right. But you know, I've known him for years. I've known him for 13, we've been together for 12. And like, since I knew him, like, he grew movies and he knew everything. Because like, he noticed it. He was like, you don't just put some terrible at it, you know, or.
We had some backbeat in our first take, and he knew right away, he goes, it's a string.
Yeah. He notices things.
Guess I'll have to check with her in a minute.
The rectangular round table.
Yeah.
Karen Holbrook. Hi, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Virginia Messenger. Very good. Good, thank you. Good to see you again.
All right, if we could all take our seats. Is this on?
Thank you so much. I don't know. I would imagine these are on.
Hello. All right, if the board and the superintendent, if we could quickly take our seats. Kelly, are they back in there? Or?
It's intense. You're sitting right there. It's cozy. You're going to catch every word.
I was told it's cozy.
Are you okay? Yes, we're good. Okay. People don't need to hear what I have to say, but they need to hear what you have to say. So I can back up and get
So
close.
we're waiting for Mr. Minor, Mr. Cologne. This is somewhat of a trial run for us, and it was intended to begin the board's discussion around one of our summer reading assignments, which is on strategy. It's a Harvard Business Review publication that defines strategy, and then it moves through, you know, what is strategy, how you apply it, and it's a collection of papers. And I thought that we could initiate the introduction of the concept around a couple of issues that have come up, which are specifically two distinct communities divided pretty much by an interstate, that is Palmetto and Parrish. And in joining us today is, I don't know if you've met Dr. Karen Holbrook yet, but Dr. Holbrook is I would say the new chancellor of USF Sarasota Manatee, but she had been helping out there for a year. And prior to that, she wore many hats. Among those Buckeye fans, she was the president of the Ohio State University for 5 years, and she and her husband have had a home in Longboat Key, right, for a number of years, and so we are very fortunate. I met her when she was the senior vice president of research for the University of South Florida, and she is an exceptional biological scientist, but she also managed to be the interim president of Embry-Riddle University, so she tried her hand at technology and aerospace and engineering. But I'll let her introduce a couple of folks that are joining us, and then I'll sort of connect the dots of why they're here. Dr. Holbrook.
Thank you.
Should be probably get close to it. Like
On? Yes,
Yep,
okay.
perfect.
Thank you, Dr. Hopes. We are delighted to be here. I have 3 of my colleagues from the University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee, and sitting at the table next to me is Dr. Brett Kemker, and Brett is our Regional Vice Chancellor for Academic and Student Affairs, who's been with us now about 5 weeks, 6 weeks, and he was a former superintendent, besides doing all of the kinds of things he's done in academia in higher education, so we're thrilled to have him here. Dr. Marie Bird is our director of the School of Education at USF-SM, and doing a phenomenal job. And Dr. Bonnie Jones has been at the University of South Florida, Sarasota Manatee for a number of years, done all kinds of things with the School of Education, the College of Education when it was that, and has also been our provost or vice chancellor for academic affairs, and formally is our vice chancellor for institutional research right now. So Bonnie's done everything. And we are very excited. We've been very excited to always listen to Dr. Hopes and the ideas he has, but we like this one very much and hope that there's an opportunity for us to be a part of it at USFSM, because we are very committed to the schools and to making sure that the students that are being prepared in the best way possible. We know that they are. So thank you for having us here.
Thank you. So, getting back to Parish and Palmetto, as you most of you are aware, when we were going through the redistricting process around the new high school, we ran into some, I won't say issues, but the mayor in Palmetto voiced their concerns. People in Parish were concerned that they were living near a new high school, but we're going to be bused to Palmetto. And so I thought that we could take the opportunity, and we're obviously going to have to spend more time on this, to kind of talk through strategy, talk through an approach in sort of defining goals and objectives, but really focus on two parts of our county. One, where we're making somewhere around $190 million investment with new schools being constructed and things like that. And it dawned on me that there may be a different way to look at what we're doing from an education perspective around these two specific communities. I was made aware, and many of you may, that based on some of the utilization at least, what, 3 of the elementary schools, superintendent, in the Palmetto area? There was some discussion about potential consolidation of a couple of schools.
Yeah, at one time,
right.
yes, there's been discussion.
And so I don't know if many of you know that before I came on the board, when I was at USF, when I asked why USF didn't have more dual enrollment programs in high schools in the Tampa Bay area, I was surprised to find out that the universities and colleges were not being paid for those dual enrolled students. Mr. Cologne was on the Board of Education at the time, and I said, hey, John, do you know that the colleges and the universities are not reimbursed for any of their costs related to these dual enrollment students? Because the wonderful thing about dual enrollment in Florida is the parents don't have to pay anything. You don't have to pay for textbooks, don't have to pay for instructional personnel. And so when you have a student who is academically ready to perform at that level, they can actually take university courses or college courses. And we do have that at, I think, Palmetto with State College of Florida through the ACE program.
All of our high schools offer dual enrollment in State College. Every
Right, but they're not all in the high school.
Yes. They all teach in all of the high schools.
So the thought was that that's been conducted through State College of Florida. As you know, USF is going through a consolidation. You have USF St. Pete, and we have USF Sarasota Manatee. And we, in my view, and that's what I want to discuss, it appeared that we could have an opportunity to make an investment in the schools in the Palmetto area. That area that is east of 75, west of 75, and north of the river. And one of the things that I had sort of discussed is, we really don't have a publicly run collegiate school. We have the State College collegiate charter school, but we don't have a public one that is at like really at a university level. So the thought to discuss is we also have an issue, and this is going to feed into sort of that shared board leadership with regards to an opportunity to create more capacity for voluntary pre-K and in the Palmetto area, with the idea of possibly looking at transitioning the elementary schools to pre-K through sixth grade, and then look at Palmetto High School as, because remember, we do not have a publicly run middle school in that area with the transition of Lincoln. So we have students going over to Buffalo Creek. It would be to look at Palmetto. When I found out historically it had been this before, Palmetto going from 7th grade to 12th grade, having a University of South Florida college-gate program on campus, bringing in some technical programs for certificates through Manatee Technical College, continue with the Cambridge program. And so we would get children in that area, in that community, into the school system, the publicly run school system, at 4 years old, pre-K. And they would stay within that community school environment all the way through sixth grade, prepared to enter into their preparation years to succeed in high school. But starting in the 7th grade, we could expose them to technical opportunities. We could expose them to a Cambridge type track. We could expose them to a university track, and help guide them through those years going into high school. And those that were on a college track would be able to come out with 2 years of college and be ready to transition to one of the other USF campuses or through Manatee Technical College. And the idea is we have an opportunity to create a community-focused, a community-centric, seamless vertical education system that's publicly run. And the strategy piece comes in as, Charlie I know has probably read every chapter. It's talking about forces. Okay. So it's talking about forces. So the first thing I throw out there is a unique opportunity to take a look at how we are able to perhaps more effectively have students that are ready for kindergarten, because we're going to get them all in at the 4-year pre-K level, and continuously progress them through the system within their community. And so, so that's the thought. As whenever you do something, you've got to figure out how you're going to pay for it. And we haven't made significant capital investment in the Palmetto area, but we're closing on the sale of the Palmetto MTC property on Thursday. The net is $1.45 million. We have already closed on the sale of the parish property, which our net proceeds on that is $3.322 million. So we're close to $5 million in capital that, if we think this is a viable approach and develop a strategy that would get us to this community-centric education system that brings together all of the education institutions within our area. The State College, MTC, University of South Florida, and we're able to expand our pre-K program. And so with that, I'll throw it out for.
Can
yes.
I just need to make just a
Superintendent.
just a couple of things. We do have pre-K right now in every one of our elementary schools north of the river. Prior, my first year when I was here, we had 3 elementary schools that were K-6. One was Palmview Elementary, one was Terra Elementary, and one was Mayaca Elementary. The reason that was dissolved is many of the school students did not want to attend 6th grade in a non-middle school type environment because the space looks very differently. So it really, for whatever reason, it didn't develop. If we were adding sixth grade to those sites, it will diminish the number of pre-K classrooms, because right now we have pre-K at every one of them. So just a thought. If you do want to add middle school comes with electives. Instead of music, you have orchestra and band and so forth, you know, and some of those electives, and the infrastructure was not that way. Now, Dr. Bird and I have already been in work since last year to partner at Bayshore High School. So we've been trying to add their the university in mixed. But we certainly can expand that. We've already talked about that today, into other schools as well. I think, you know, we certainly need to look at some discussion of what we're doing north of the river, because we do know one middle school, traditional middle school, is not going to suffice. We were going to need to evaluate the needs of the campuses after the 10-day count to see the capacity of Buffalo Creek to make some changes. We just need to go back and look at policy on if you are redistricting and changing the configuration of a school, and I think you have to have a lot of community dialogue as to what their needs and thoughts are. But I think it is, you know, we're going to have to look at it. We're going to have to talk about what is the plan, because of course having one traditional middle school is not going to be sufficient.
And it may be the numbers play out that sixth grade may be better suited, you know, on the Palmetto High School campus. But a number of the community groups, the mayor, city council, Commissioner Trace, and others, I think are very interested in looking at how we can make an investment in the other half of the area north of the river.
I just need to say one more thing, and I'm not going to talk. The money from
This is a round table.
The numbers of those proceeds have already been captured for the new elementary school when we needed to make it a hurricane shelter, when we had that overage expenditure. Not that we can't find other capital money to do what you need. I did want to tell you those dollars are already part of the new elementary school. Okay, now I'm out of the discussion.
Where we're investing all of our money in the parish area. Mr. Kennedy, our secondary ed expert.
Test, it's on. I think this is a great start to this conversation. This is all brand new to me as of right now, and I have a few personal interests here that align with this. The expansion of MTC's programs, a little pet project I'm working on with the solar installer program, that aligns with this, you know, sustainable energy and job creation, and I think as long as we're talking about an expansion of the existing program on the campus and not bringing in programs to compete with ACE, for example, I think that's a great idea.
ACE has been very successful.
Absolutely. Obviously there's a lot of more information, there's a lot more input we need. Bring this group together again. Today is like an all-star school board meeting. We have Dr. Holbrook here and her team, and we have our county commissioner chairwoman has been here today, so it's pretty interesting. A busy day here of celebrities at the school board meeting. Initially, I'm very interested. I'm very curious about this idea. You all know I've been talking about school-based student health clinics. I think that could be wrapped up in here as well. So I'm just trying to fit all of my pet projects into.
I think Dr. Holbrook will align with you on that. They are adding nursing, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, as well, and USF Health in total is going to be expanding in those areas. Vice Chair Messenger, our early childhood education and elementary ed expert.
And parish.
And mom and parish.
It sounds great. I like Mr. Kennedy just said, this is all new to me, so I'll have to really think on it a lot more. Initial questions I have, or initial thoughts, is what would happen to school choice? Just because if we do this in this one section and somebody wants to school choice over, it would be a weird transition for every other part of the county. So that's one question I have, how that affects school choice so that more kids could come there that are living other places. I guess my other question would be about Buffalo Creek. I mean, but we really wouldn't have any idea necessarily now what would happen to the numbers of Buffalo Creek. And my last question, my other questions about cost, but would be about if we put 6th grade in the elementary school and put the rest in the high school, how are we ensuring that those students that are in the elementary school are then prepared for the format of a high school? Just because I think that would be a big leap. So we'd have to, work on those kinds of things. But those are all just logistical things. I think it sounds really wonderful to be able to offer additional programs to Palmetto High, especially MTC. I agree with that. And being able to offer different college classes. I do have a question though. I was under the impression that for a lot of our programs, like for AP, IB, ICE, any of those programs, if you were to complete them, that could equal up to 2 years of college, correct? I mean, the IB program I know specifically.
If you finish with an ACE diploma or an IB diploma, it is equivalent as such.
It is the equivalent.
So as well as if you finish with an AA degree or so forth. Now, the AA degree, honestly, does transfer as such. Most universities with an ACE diploma or an IB diploma will only let you bring in
Certain
1 year's worth of credits. So really the most guaranteed way is finishing with that 2-year diploma. However, the ACE diploma or the IB diploma is well renowned and it looks very, very well on an application going into college. So it does offer a lot of program incentives. But even if you receive those numbers of credits, not all universities take them in. In the state of Florida, if you have an AA degree, it transfers in. Yeah.
Okay. I think those are all my questions right now, but I wanted to thank you. I think this is a really nice idea. I think there's a lot more conversation that needs to be had, but it's very thoughtful.
Thanks. Mr. Clone.
Yeah, I think this is a great start. It's the first I'm hearing about it, so I'm excited about it because I particularly like MTC. I think our students are very underserved by getting certificates and things that they can utilize immediately, such as construction. We are hungry for graduates in the construction industry, and that's something that they can stay right here at home in Florida and utilize on day one. Okay. In fact, I would imagine that most of the construction companies would want to engage those graduates before they graduate so that they can step into the jobs on day one and they can know what they're getting. So they'll want to partner with us, and that would go towards maybe purchasing certain types of equipment, adding grant dollars to some of the courses, and these are things that we can sorely use to make these programs not only more successful, but more accessible to all of our students. As to the kids in the 6th grade thing, that's totally psychological, and that's on the parents more than the students, I suspect, because in a lot of states, kids go through elementary school in 6th grade. I didn't even see that until I got down here, because, in the North, 6th grade is in elementary school, whether you like it or not. 9th grade starts high school, sometimes, depending on the school. I think it's important because the parish and the Ellington area are underserved communities as far as I'm concerned, and I think it's time we made significant investment in that area.
Thank you. Mr. Miner.
That's all right, thank you. It's on already.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think all of us appreciate there's a lot of thought that has to go into realignments and what schools that we have there. Carol Probstville and State College of Florida is building a campus out there too, which should be part of the discussion. What I thank you, USF, for involvement, your care, your being here today, and there's a lot to be done. Your involvement with our schools cannot be appreciated enough. What I think we're all concerned with is every move we make has certain, ramifications. And when we commenced with the building of this new high school, in Parrish, it has significant ramifications on Palmetto High School. And as Tom Tryon wrote about a week ago about what are we going to do to help, boost this wonderful Palmetto High School, and involvement with other college programs, USF, State College of Florida, MTC, or what are certainly, options. And I really haven't been able to think out, I don't think anyone's been able to think out how is the best, let alone a better way, to go about it at this point. But I think it is a good message to the community that the need is not being ignored, and that the people here in this auditorium, particularly around this table, are concerned. And I don't have a preconceived notion about what is best, but I do know as far as a final. But I do think that trying to think it through and the ramifications are important. When we use the term community, we have friends here from the Parrish area who that is their theme, and it's an important theme for north of the river. And I thought we were going to talk about that right now. Are we not, Mr. Chair?
We're probably gonna run out of time, but that is part. This is going to be an ongoing discussion.
Well, okay. Well, we heard some speakers earlier, this afternoon, speaking about the need for, recognizing the sense of community that comes with the naming of a educational institution, and I don't think that should be ignored either.
Right.
And
No, you're right.
I think that it may come up, tonight, before we give that more recognition. Then, gee, thanks for coming, and so thank you very much.
Thank you. First of all, I want to confirm what Ms. Saunders is saying. University of South Florida, Sarasota, Manatee, we actively sought a greater presence in Manatee County via the school district of Manatee County. We had meetings last year, and we discussed dual enrollment. And we were particularly intrigued with the possibility of Bayshore High being as one of the chosen schools, because there's a great deal, the school is majority minority, if I'm understanding. And USF Sarasota Manatee, we seek to increase our diverse student enrollment. We seek to have students stay locally and attend college here. And so that was an area for us to make sure we meet our goals. Secondly, our purpose here, when we hear about, as an educator, a school district seeking to try different methods to close this academic achievement gap, which we all know at the bottom of the achievement gap is students that are Hispanic, African American, of poverty. And so that is the demographic of the community in which you spoke about. And if the same thing is not working, we need to seek to determine what will work. It's really important also, just a little bit on the middle school philosophy. As you know, middle schools were created because at that level, that's where we lose them. That's where we start to lose them. The elementary schools can hold on to them, but once they reach that middle school level, that's where we start to lose them. And the middle schools are supposed to have this kind of configuration where there's a smaller community there of teachers that are focusing on students and their learning and their well-being. But I'm not sure where that is right now. So I think that we need to research the best place for that very difficult transitional time for students. And what does research say about the best place? Is it, with elementary, or is it with high school? Either way, it's going to be a huge transition. And I just want to say, with, speaking of with my colleagues here and my boss, that we really were excited about this because we seek to have a greater presence. We want to see more students coming into the university that were previously underserved. So we are delighted to be here at the table, and we look forward to further conversation.
Thank you. So what you're all feeling is what was sort of intended. And the only thing I have done is I've spoken with other community leaders that would need to embrace the idea before I brought it to the table. So the strategy here is to throw out an out-of-the-box type of thinking to address a series of issues and challenges that we have. And then we'll move through the process, and you've all picked up on it. There are a lot of questions to be asked. There's data and information to collect. There's analytics. There's dialogue with partners. And so what I would ask each of you to do, and then I'm going to give Dr. Kempker an opportunity to weigh in, is now that we've kind of thrown an idea out there to say we would like to look at how we can create community-centric education, a community-centric education system in these two communities, so they, number one, don't lose their identity. And this fits in with Parrish, because keep in mind, what we have going on in Parrish is we have a high school, a future State College of Florida campus, and an elementary school, and then other educational institutions around it, both private and public. And so the strategy that we can think through and develop over time around this is just as applicable to the Bayshore area, the Parrish area. And so what I would ask each of you to do is, now that an idea has been floated out there, think through your level of interest, like you've articulated, and then read probably the first 3 chapters of this book, and thinking about how you apply some of these sort of business strategy and strategic planning practices to this idea of creating a new way to seamlessly deliver education in these communities and maintain a community focus. Dr. Kempker.
I will be very brief. Time and time again, I've been involved with these types of initiatives, and it is amazing to me what happens with when elementary educators, when universities, educators get together, they raise the consciousness of the community in a way that is unimaginable. I mean, we're talking about college, we're talking about a VOTEC school, we're talking about education that isn't even a concept in the minds of a lot of these kids that we're talking about. We talk about early intervention. Instilling this opportunity in kids that are young, it's not that they've dismissed college, they never even considered it, ever. When we talk about provosts and chancellors and registrars, that's scary. That's a different planet. But when we can infuse the concept of critical thinking, infuse that concept of You have lots of opportunities here. It's not just a four-year institution. It's vocational school. It's a lot of different schools that you can do. That raises the consciousness of everyone. We learn more about what our elementary and high school educators need from us. They learn what they can do for us. We can do for them. It's a great partnership. It's a win-win all the way around.
Thank you. Is everyone game and giving it a try? That's okay. All right. Thank you very much. We are now into our full board meeting, but I'm going to have to sort of extend our break, I think, so people don't. Because we need to transition. Well, thank you very much. I know it was kind of short notice, and really look forward to continuing the work.
Thank you very much. Appreciate this.
Thanks.